Hey everybody, I am Brandon Jones. We got Kyle Bossman, we got Ben Moore, we got Ian Hank, all who attended PSX 2016 this year. It was good. I really enjoyed it. We had a good PSX, everybody?
Yes.
We have Ben. You have a television show that we on television show. You have a show. Congratulations!
You didn't tell us.
called Frame Trap, where you discussed several things at PSX at length. We're going to cover a couple of those other things and also just everything else because this was actually pretty rare because most of the allies, 90% of the allies went to PSX this year, and usually we'll just like one or two of us will go to an event. So we all got something to say. I know Dino Frontier was talked about a great deal on Frame Trap. I got to talk about Dino Frontier. That was my main thing. That was like my number one mission that I went over to. And I think my favorite thing about that is seeing the sim element up close. Actually zooming in makes me want to play like Tropico or something like that. Something that just has like a lot of moving pieces, like imagine like Civ 6, like in that where you can just get like right up into the action. So that was fascinating. I don't know, Kyle, if there's anything you wanted to add to.
Oh, just how simple and easy and fast it works. That's all I was doing, man.
Lots of grabbing. That was the one critique I had that I told them. I was like, I was doing this a lot.
I love it. I love grabbing
one
and
log
pushing
and another log.
Zooming out and then zooming in and just like, okay, let me see him. Zoom in on that. The guy afterward, so I got kicked out of the media room while I was playing this, so I had to go to like the regulars line, and so I waited through the regulars line
because it was closing.
It was closed, yeah. So I got kicked
they didn't,
out.
like kick him out.
I felt like I got kicked out. I was halfway through the demo. They're like, Kyle, it's time for you to go, buddy.
You were being pretty rowdy.
So the guy afterward, who's had a boring day of just watching people play this demo all day, said, "Hey man, that was a great playthrough. You were like a cinematic director. I was having a great time watching you." Because that's how it's meant to be played, I think, is like you get the shots, you pull up on the board, you zoom in, and
well, it's
oh my
too
God.
bad because Jones made him take out all the things you loved about it. All the grabbing.
Oh, I know, yeah.
There's a spider on my mic.
Oh, sweet.
I figured out the mystery because Kyle was so excited about Dino Frontier. It's not because of the game, it's because of the praise that was heaped upon
That's
him.
the only reason I want to talk about PaRappa today.
And the hurtness he felt from being kicked out of the media room that he felt he needed to express to everybody.
But no, honestly, that's my favorite VR game that I've played so far.
I will buy a PSVR for Dino Frontier.
Whoa.
It's the game that
That's awesome.
But it's weird because it's not that type of game where it's like everybody should. You know, it's just I love it so much and I'm so curious to see where that goes.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was telling him was I was like, I did a lot of grabbing, and he's like, well, eventually you can train people to go do that for you. So they're like they'll not only chop the trees
They'll
down, they'll
grab
harvest
for
them
you.
as well and bring.
Oh, that's what you meant by
back.
grabbing. I was like picking the things up.
Yeah, when they would cut a bunch of wood down, there'd be like 5 wood pieces. It's like it'd be nice to just like grab them all and drop them all in as opposed to like one.
So I got
and
2
then the
tips
other.
for you, 2 pro tips. So we should explain what this game is, by the way.
I
was wondering.
You are running a mining town of cowboys that are out to hunt attacking dinosaurs.
It's a real-time strategy game.
It's a real-time strategy game set in the Old West.
Yeah.
Versus dinosaurs.
In
But it's
VR,
like-
and you have a table in front of you, and you can.
It's a god game, so you're looking down at
Yeah, it's
everybody,
like
but
a
you can get
town
right up in
builder,
their
right?
business. Yeah.
You're like making a civilization?
I think it's much more like building a little StarCraft base.
Oh, okay.
It's much
Like
more about
building
economy
cities.
and business. Like you're definitely running like a mining town, like a boom town.
And so yeah, you'll make people become lumberjacks basically. They'll chop down trees, and so then you can take the logs and then put them into your lumber yard. But you can also just toss them off the side of the board, Jones, and that'll count.
Okay, yeah.
If you have food, you can just put it up to your mouth and eat it all.
I saw that, yeah,
and
yeah.
that works too. So like, I mean, you don't have to grab everything and put it directly in spots.
Dino Frontier.
Dino Frontier, yes.
Yes, big
I'm
yes
excited
to
to see
that.
more about. But again, like if someone's like new Dino Frontier trailer, it's like I'm fine. I'll go get it.
Same.
I don't need to be like I need all the deets.
Media blackout on
Frontier,
Dino
yeah.
Frontier.
I feel like you guys should stream this game together. Just hearing
sure.
you talk about it. I
Well,
think
you're
bounce
the
off
one
each
who's got the
other really
PSVR, so I got to go over to your place.
Yep.
well. Holding it hostage.
Another thing that I'm sure you talked to death. Another thing that I'm completely sold on media blackout. Uncharted Survival.
That was all
which
Huber.
Played. Huber played that with Brad. We played that. The 3 of us. So Ian, Hank, Mr.
Huber,
Kyle Bossman, and myself.
Oh, yeah,
That's out
Bossman
soon. You don't
and
have to
me.
be media blackout on that. That's like
That's
early
next week.
December.
Oh,
they said,
but I'm
right?
sold. You know what I
Oh,
mean? I don't
gotcha.
need
yeah.
any more convincing on that one.
I actually quite enjoyed it.
Sucker for survival modes.
It was fun.
So
Hard.
yeah.
Apparently, they think it's a little too hard. They're like, we might have to tweak this a little.
But it'd be great if it's scalable. That's a great thing about survival. Is that like you're gonna lose. Like it's not a matter of like
Just
you
like
know,
real
finishing.
life.
It's when you finish. Yeah, exactly. Bringing it down.
There's an ability where if you taunt, you're invincible for the first second of your taunt. That's very cool.
Oh, cool.
I really like that a lot. More games could use that.
They they definitely make you move, and that's one thing I really liked about it. Is they're definitely like, okay, you can't stay here. You have to go over there and activate this thing or save this person. Boss fights, lots of fun.
One time I thought I was safe on top of a building, and then somebody started shooting me from behind, and another guy threw a grenade up at me from the other side, and I was like, oh, they're coming in the other way now. Okay, never mind.
Nex Machina. Who got to check that out? I played it. Anybody?
I haven't played it.
It looks like bullet hell turned me right off.
It's one of those games that I feel like I don't need to play in an event like this because I know their history and I saw a trailer of this game and I'm like, yep, I know what that's gonna be. I know I'm gonna love it.
I think it was the last game I checked out it was before I got kicked out of the media room.
Did they say your name, Brandon? It's time to go.
No.
Oh, okay. Maybe I just took it too personally.
I kind of sensed that, and I left
It's
before they
time to
came
go.
up and said something.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
we've got social
Awareness?
Yeah.
But love the pace of it. Definitely gets your heart rate going. Like I like that you're constantly switching over to different planes, so it's not all. It's kind of like MC Escher a little bit, where like now you're on the side of it, now you're up on the ceiling, and once you defeat a certain area, it'll just like zip you over to that part. So it's surprising if it's not just like a slog through one area that takes a long time, but you keep kind of switching over where I'm going. That resets the pace of the game and actually kind of makes it more palatable to play for longer periods of time. Like every time that would happen, I was like, that was satisfying. I liked that. Like, thanks for that weird little cinematic moment. That was
I love Geometry Wars,
nice
Jones.
breather.
Is this going to be like that?
Definitely.
Like that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Cool.
It was the kind of thing where like when I got hit, I realized like, well, I think I just got lucky for the first 120 seconds of playing this game because like I just grazed that guy and he took me out. So
Right.
yeah, it's definitely
Speaking
tricky.
of-
Fun bosses.
Geometry Wars, and I'm really glad you brought this up, Kyle. Something that I was watching people play Nex Machina, and something that Geometry Wars does well, that almost no other game that gets that crazy does well, is anytime I'm playing Geometry Wars, and I'm getting up to the point where it's just a zillion things are happening to me at once, I feel like I can always read what's going on, and I got that sense with Nex Machina. Like, oh my god, this is crazy, everything is exploding, but I feel like I know exactly where the danger is, like where my paths are to move, and that's so important in a game like this.
And anytime I didn't, one death set me straight. When I was like, that's a threat. Got it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, fun game to keep trying and trying again. Very colorful, very pretty. But like playing an event like this means you have to have the headphones on, so it's just like it's a very loud game, like crazy techno to like have in your head. And I think that's most of the stuff. A lot of this stuff was not covered on Frame Trap, so officially at Easy Allies, we need to get through this information. And there's no game we should probably start with. So we start at the end of the couch there with PaRappa the Rapper.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to talk about this.
Everybody, it's like everyone gets their own event. It's like every single time an event happens, you just pick one ally and you just make one of their wildest dreams come true.
I think several
It was
of our
somebody like
wildest dreams-
freeze framed when that happened, and it was just so like so many of us were like looking over at Kyle.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
like, I can't believe it.
Yeah, because I mean, we started it saying I expect a PaRappa announcement and I expect to be disappointed by it. That's how we started our pre-show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it turns out flawless.
Flawless.
This remake
beautiful.
is flawless.
And that's not just from seeing it. That's from I observed Kyle Bossman playing this.
Can we tell that story?
Can I tell the story, Kyle?
You tell the story.
Of
I wanna
other
hear it from a
developers,
third person.
Of other developers who didn't work on PaRappa the Rapper coming over to see Kyle play while he's got headphones on and being like, is he doing what I think he's doing? It reminded me of like Pinball Wizard, you know?
Yeah.
It was like I
It's
thought
like that scene
I
from the
seriously
80s
thought
movie.
like the Who was gonna come out and start playing, just like PaRappa Wizard, and he's just so focused and like he said like Scott Rohde played it at one point and like was really frustrated because he couldn't like beat some level or something, and Kyle's just like
Couldn't go cool.
and Kyle goes into
It
the
couldn't go cool,
Kyle goes
yeah.
into the kung fu level, and the guy like kicks the walls and they go flying off.
Yeah,
And he goes,
he
"Sunset,"
got
I'm
to
like,
cool immediately.
So
like third prompt in Kyle's cool, and like the people making the game are like, yeah, we couldn't make this happen ourselves.
he was like,
for
oh, there's a
long time."
glitch coming up, just to let you know, because
Yeah.
like not a lot of people have done that today.
Yeah, they were like,
did
we
that.
had to have one QA guy. The guy making the game was like, we had one QA guy who could get to cool. So we didn't see all these glitches until then.
It reminds me of the South Park Guitar Hero episode where that kid plays Guitar Hero like with no music. He's just like clicking the guitar, like he just got the headphones on. So all it's just Bossman in the chairs.
I was doing cool raps, I swear.
But the funny thing is I could hear it. Like it was like I told the dev, I'm like, it's in my head right now. Like it's 1-to-1. Like I might as well be wearing those headphones too. Like I can hear Kick Punch, all of that. Like
what's crazy? I
it's
mean,
such- yeah. Such a fun game.
I played that level and the last level, the concert level. Oh man, and again, cooled that one too. And that's where the weird graphical glitches started showing up. Anyway, I just want to like sing some praises for this game. There's one artist working on repainting every texture. And that's why there were some missing. It's like, oh, we didn't know that was in the game. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
just one artist the team who's working on it isn't known for developing games. It's the team who's created the PS2 to PS4 conversion. And so yeah, they got these 3 games. They got Patapon and Loco Roco and PaRappa as like do it. Let's see how this works.
Test it out.
And so yeah, this is them developing games. And they made some improvements to PaRappa I got to talk about. One is you can feel the beat in the controller with the rumble.
That's such a good idea.
It's a really cool idea.
It's pretty great.
it's
yeah.
called Feel the Beat.
Yep, feel the beat. And they also have See the Beat, which I don't think they turned on for me, but that would be I think the icon.
It gets big where you press gets zoomed in, I think is what he said.
Okay, yeah,
so
I think
you
he
can
did say
see
that, yeah.
where your input was.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
So yeah, those two cool
Smart stuff.
things. The game is like done right now. The demo had all 6 stages, but they're not finished with it yet. They said we want to figure some stuff out still on top of that.
Question.
Yeah.
In PaRappa the Rapper 1 on PS1, when you have those cutscenes, they're like boxed. Mm-hmm. Did you see the cutscenes? Like, are they full, like,
So
16 by 9?
that's a huge issue they have, Ben.
Okay.
It's still in 480p.
Okay.
They don't have those assets.
Sure.
Apparently they were created, those 3D assets, in some software that nobody uses anymore.
Doesn't exist anymore.
And so they were saying, like, frankly, we don't know what we're going to do about this yet. It might appear as it does now. We're going to try to find out some solution in between.
Interesting.
Because
they said to redo them, they would just have to go frame by frame and just redraw everything.
yeah,
Wow.
which
And
would
he
take
was
as
like,
much time as
it's
everything else.
Probably, he's like, we don't have enough time for that, so we don't know.
Yeah.
It looked fine though, like
Yeah. No, I was just curious.
it had
Yeah.
a cool HD background.
But the game itself looks flawless.
It really
plays
looks gorgeous.
flawlessly. Oh god, I'm so excited. Just for an old game to be given a second chance like this is really, really inspiring. I'm so happy about it.
I think PaRappa the Rapper is one of the greats.
One of the greats.
greats.
Absolutely, it's a top 10 of mine.
One of the greats.
Jones, that's what happened. Is I sat down and I was like, I wanted to go back to the main menu, and the guy walks up and says, "Hey, so you might want to like go to select your track over there." And I'm like, No. This is one of my top 10 favorite games. And he goes, "Oh, it's one of my top 10 favorites too." And I'm like, "It's like, I'll just let you play." And I did, and they're like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I got it.
The people making the game were very impressed by Kyle because he's better at the game than all of them.
What if you could, when you're going to conventions and stuff, if it's like a sequel to one of your top 10, you can just put a badge on, like,
Top 10.
this is one of my top
Top
10.
10.
You don't need to come up.
Yeah,
I
it's
got
fine.
it.
It's
Thank
top
you.
10.
See, like when I'm bummed because like when this comes out, Kyle's just gonna do like the lonely stream at his apartment, whereas like I kind of want to like play it on speakers and like just put you in the middle of the room in a chair and we'll just like dance like while you're playing and just do like a full
If that's what you
playthrough.
want, I'll do it.
Let's do that video.
Yeah.
I want you to make. I want
It's
you
a
to make.
spectacle. It's like Damiani playing the original Legend of Zelda. You know?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like,
I hear you.
it's like you're playing an instrument.
I want you to make Kyle Bossman's "How to Be Cool" a PaRappa the Rapper primer.
Let me just tell the audience now.
Oh,
Okay.
It's so
Welcome
simple.
to Kyle Bossman's "How to Be Cool."
You got to do what?
So when he says, "Here we go now, kick," and it's your time to just go kick, don't just hit one button. Go kick, 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 kick.
I was
know?
doing that and I didn't get
And he
the
goes
cool
punch.
boss.
You go
I was-
pop, 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 punch.
I do that too,
You know?
and the game's like, get out of here.
The game's like you're wrong. The game's like you've made a
You
mistake.
gotta feel the beat.
Yeah,
So you have to do it on the beat though.
kind of. Yeah.
It's
don't
like-
think I'm
it's like-
your advice is not real.
It's like if
it's not
somebody's
right.
like, "How do you rap?" You're like, "You have to have rhythm." And you're like, "Oh, okay."
I'm out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Kyle Bossman, much more soulful than we ever thought. So many games here that we got to get through. A lot of games that we talked about before, but it's like we just have to talk about it again because Nioh is just that good. And it's there, and there's a level I've never seen before. There's weapons.
played it.
He's got a hat. What's that hat? And like, there's like other crazy like
What's that hat?
whip and staff
Please
things.
describe the hat.
And he's up. Actually was like a kind of just
recall the
a
hat.
classic riding like.
Oh yeah. He had a
Big
very
Trouble in Little China kind of hat.
nice samurai outfit on.
But there was like kind of an Ewok village thing he was in where there's like
Mm-hmm.
bridges and trees and all.
Lots of
I saw
demons.
Nioh running on a 70-inch TV on the PS4 Pro in 4K, and I was like, yeah, I gotta play this amazing game that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting there playing it. It was funny because the guy was next to me. He's the producer, and he was like, "Have you played this game? Have you done?" I'm like, "Yeah, I dumped like 30
Top
hours.
10.
Top 10. I like dumped like 30 hours into the beta." And he's like, "Oh, you'll be fine then. You'll get to the boss, no problem." And I was like, "Well, just because I played it a lot doesn't mean I'm good at it." And then he goes, "Yeah, me too. I did get to the boss. I almost beat it. He told me I did a great job, so I was like happy about that. But like I got it like this close and then died. But it's so good. The cutscene before the boss is really cool. It like makes flowers happen with its tears.
What is the boss? What is it then?
It's like this big demon with like a mask on. and like a half. I mean, I can't describe it. It's some giant monster.
But it's a giant demon that makes flowers with its tears?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It's weird to say I'm incredibly excited for the story of that game, you know? Like, it plays so well, and it's so difficult and all of the Dark Souls-related things. But just the weird stuff that happens and how they present it, it's cool to be excited for a narrative in a game like that.
Yeah.
They can't screw that up, right? What could they do
Anything's
at this
possible,
point?
Jones?
It's at least 3 stars.
I've played this
Whoa.
game.
Whoa. It's at least 4 stars.
No, I mean, like, right now it's got 3 locked in.
I've already played
Locked
like
in.
7 levels
no
of
matter
this
what
game.
happens, we can't change that. Yeah.
I mean, the beta was a 5-star beta. IMHO. IMHO.
5-star beta.
5-star beta.
That's going to be on the box. 5-star beta.
5-star beta. Easy allies.
I think next to like Minecraft, there's no game I've played more before it's come out.
The Nioh,
I can't
really?
think. Like
Jones
different
isn't a Nioh, that's
stuff.
crazy,
You know, like
yeah.
sometimes like a demo would come out and I would play the demo to death, but like different things, like
Solid
new
2.
levels constantly. Like
Yeah.
every time I see it, there's just more stuff.
I
Nioh is
feel like
hard.
I've touched on this before, but it's weird that it's a Tecmo Koei game.
Yeah,
because I
it
feel
is.
like
It's
there are a
very
lot of
strange.
Tecmo Koei games that I enjoy.
Yeah.
But it's one. Do you ever have those games where you're like, it's not great, but I like it. Like, you know, you
Yeah,
kind of have
yeah,
that
yeah,
sensation.
yeah.
Nioh is not that way.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, no, this is going to be something else.
Whereas, like,
So.
Let It Die is, like, very much, like, it's not great, but I like it right now. Like, for me.
I don't know how to feel.
I have
It's a
no
conversation
idea.
for another time.
Yeah, I don't know if that's on the list. But
Yeah.
Let It Die is actually kind of fun.
Less AAA stuff, more obscure stuff that I was curious about. One of these I finally got to play that I was curious about because I love the dev. But first, Vane, which I didn't get to check out.
Vane.
Which
Vane,
you played.
I didn't get to play it.
I
Pro in
played
the
it.
canyon and flying around and stuff.
I played it. Bossman played it in a more structured setting than I just jumped in on a thing that was already on. I think it was like in the middle of the demo, and so I just kind of flew around, landed on some weather vanes, and got a bunch of crows to fly with me. And then I was like,
Just like real life.
I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, and then I stopped. But it was pretty sweet.
So Vane's,
Yours- yeah.
yeah, Vane's cool. Vane is super widescreen. It's got that Dragon's Dogma widescreen.
Yeah.
It is huge. When you say like you're just wandering around in a desert, it's all because it's what they call it. They called it high poly, low poly, or something like that. Is
Oh,
what they
okay.
called it. The look, because
Yeah.
it's a lot of polygons, but the way it's shaded is like how you shade low poly games.
Yeah.
And
It
so
kind of
it's-
reminds me of Tomorrow Children in a weird way.
Sure. Yeah. Flying around is really cool. And it's just kind of like actually, I don't want to say that as an exploration game, but I love exploring. I love doing that. Eventually, you land in some gold as a bird, and then you become a human. And you
I did
wander
not
around
do
and,
that.
Yeah, you wander around and do some platforming and like find your path up and out of the way. The game to me seemed very early,
Yeah.
and they're saying it's out pretty soon. I don't think it's out pretty soon. I think it's got a lot of work to do on it still, but it's a really cool. The soundtrack. Do you have headphones on, Ian?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love the soundtrack.
Sound was really good.
Really cool, like just deep synthy, just like, and then just like really cool things when it knows when something huge is happening. Like there was thunder and just he showed me the prologue and there's just like it's like all red and there's thunder striking and everything's falling apart, and so it could be very, very cool.
Man, I missed out.
Did the platforming feel good?
No,
Okay.
the platforming felt bad. I would even go as far to say. So that's why I'm hoping that there's a lot more to do with the game still.
Okay.
But the style is interesting. One thing that struck me from a lot of the stuff, independent stuff, VR stuff that we were seeing at the showcase that kicked off PSX was this kind of like tribal, like, you know, like going back to the basics, like leaning into the next game I played, which was Pyre, which I was curious about. That I finally got to check out. It looked more like kind of a sports game,
Yeah.
like a head-to-head thing. But it definitely does have a single-player component. But Vane is like that Absolver. Am I getting that right?
Yes.
With
Yeah.
that fighting game.
Yes.
Which I didn't check out, but I saw other people play.
I watched people play it, and the dev talked to me, and they were saying, or it wasn't a dev, but it was like a Sony rep, was saying that you design your own martial arts style.
Cool.
So you like pick what your attacks are. I didn't get specifics, but that sounds really cool.
And just the style. It's very. I wouldn't say basic, but it's just like it leaves a lot, kind of like Journey, that like leaves a lot to interpretation.
Do you
So I
like
really
the
that.
sport of Pyre? That's what I'm most curious about.
Yeah, so Pyre had fun. Like Pyre, I was kind of confused going into it, and there were some systems that didn't make sense to me. And then by the end of it, I was like, duh! You know, like I really wanted to win that fight. And I think the guy just kept getting back into line because he's like, I love this game, I love playing more of it. So he was like, not a dev, but was kind of like telling me how to play the game. So there were 2 teams that were available. You have 3 players. And what you basically have to do is there's a ball. You got to get the ball to the other person's in the other person's base. Each team and each person has different traits, and each person has a dash, has a stamina. So the worst is when you're like, ah, and you like run in towards the end, and you run a stamina like 10 feet away, and then they come up and it's like, and take you out. All I have to do is just get near. If you have the ball, I just have to get near you, and you're out. Like I have a circle around me, and I just got to tag you with that. So it's really tricky, like where you want to go, and you also have a spell that you can shoot out that you have to charge up, and the bigger guys obviously have like a giant spell. So if I'm like the little dog guy and he's like the big guy, like I can maybe have the speed to get around him, but I want to make sure I don't have stamina. And if he just like shoots one spell, he can probably knock me out because he's got this huge like radius. One thing that confused me was when the characters are near each other, their circles will kind of like fuse together. So like if you have two characters right next to each other, you're kind of like blocking that area. And I was like, how, like if the big guy's just standing on the goal, how do I score? And he's like, jump. He's like, if you're in the air, it doesn't, like, you don't get hit by that thing. So if you like jump out of the way, so it's basically just like the thing that's interesting is the abilities that each of these different characters have, their size and speed, and every single time you score with one of them for the next round, you don't have that character. So the person who just scored only has 2 players on their team. So if you like want to make the run and score, you have to figure out like, well, who am I giving up to go in the next round, and how am I going to play with those 2 characters? So you might only want to score as one of them.
I'm extremely skeptical about that, Jones. Well, imagine a sport in real life where it's like you scored, now you have penalty
just for a
time.
goal. Like I think you each have 100 health, and every time you score, it takes off 15. So for one of those 15 rounds, you lose that guy.
And you want to lose.
And then if they scored, you get everybody back.
Yeah, man. I don't know.
And then you back up to 100 health?
No. You just lose one. Like the character that scored the next round, you can't use them.
Right.
That's like
only
that's
two
a too friendly sport.
So if you,
That's
oh,
really
okay,
bizarre.
it's too balanced.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You're looking after that
banding,
other
yeah.
second player. Who cares about?
It's like
player
in
two?
hockey. It's like, oh, you scored a goal, take a player out. It's like, what? No, why are you punishing us for getting a goal? It's
Right,
like,
that's my thing. Is like,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
punish the person for doing well?
Well, it also makes the comebacks feel less momentous, because it's like, oh well, we had a a handicap there.
To have your whole team, the other team has to score.
There better be a good excuse for this in the canon.
I mean, I was a new player and I didn't like take advantage of that or something to like have a huge comeback. Like the
Okay.
guy still destroyed me. like
right.
he was still very capable, like with just 2 people.
And it's like fast. It is like a
It's very
competitive sport kind of
situation.
situation.
It's definitely fast, and it's not
It's
just
confusing.
It's not just 1v1. Like they're when I asked them like, oh, is there a single player component? And they're like, we're primarily a, because they are. They're like, that's what they've been known for. They're like, we're primarily a single player developer. So like, yeah, we have definitely more of a focus on that. There's a whole narrative.
Sure, the trailer
It was
gives
on
them
like
that.
the other
Yeah.
side of the booth. They had like one side for single player, one side for multiplayer, and I was like, just really curious to play this against another person and see. I mean, not really like specifically the ins and outs and like, does it have esports potential? But like, am I gonna enjoy this? Like, am I actually gonna like finish that and be like, yeah, that was fun? And like, I definitely like the feeling of having that huge guy and being just like a little squirrel thing and just jumping in, boop, score on you. Like, it's fun.
Does it have esports potential though?
I just don't know if it's balanced. And there was only two teams available at the event, and I'm sure they'll have more teams. But so that was the other thing too, is I got, I just grabbed a controller and I was the team that I was. But it'd be kind of fun to like pick one because it's more speed focused, maybe, or defense, or like their spells are maybe stronger. I'm not sure how that breaks down, but it was interesting, and I was very skeptical because it's so different from the other 2 games that they made. So I was like, well, this isn't fun. So then there's that. But once the rules set in and I could actually be competitive, I still lost, but I had a good time. But yeah, skeptical couch. Nobody on the couch. The art style's interesting.
I'm more confused than skeptical. I think it probably makes sense if you've played it.
To me, it's that game has. If that game is the combat of this RPG, basically, that
Right.
game has to be great.
Right.
So we'll see. I didn't
Yeah.
play the story part, but maybe we can get to that later at a preview event or something. Sharp intake of breath from Ben Moore.
Oh no, I'm willing to give Supergiant the benefit of the doubt. I really enjoyed Transistor and Bastion very, very, very much. So
They're batting 100.
I'm not going in thinking, oh, is this going to be good? Like,
Yeah.
I'm going in with pretty high expectations and seeing where it lands. So
Like, I'll give you an example. Like you can shoot the ball drops in the middle of the field. I go running for it. He goes running. My opponent goes running for it too. We both meet right at the same point. I hit a spell, kill him, grab it, run right past him after I killed him. Like, just feels good. It's just like that kind of give and take of like, am I going to grab? That back and forth. But again, sustaining a whole campaign, I don't know. It's so interesting that you'd want to play multiple teams. I don't know. And like that would then again feel different. Star Blood Arena VR coming
Yeah.
at you.
Sure.
Didn't check out. Who checked this out?
I think just me. I love VR. I love VR.
I definitely
so
had some
much.
allies meet up with me at PSX, and they were like, "Yeah, some good VR stuff. Starfield Arena was cool." God, that game made me sick because you're just like,
Made me sick.
yeah, because you're
Huh,
just like
that's
rotating
interesting.
all
But
over
you're
the
in a
place.
spaceship. Normally those are good.
Yeah.
Because you're seated.
It is crazy. It's a lot like Eagle Flight, where I'm so pumped on this game because I'm doing maneuvers that I couldn't do in other games with 2 analog sticks, you know?
Yes.
I'd totally dig it for that reason. Just having a 3D space and having control over, I know there's an enemy behind this pillar, and I can sneak up on him from
Yeah.
beneath. You know, just the stuff you could pull off is what makes these games exciting. I didn't get to see a lot of it. It will have a single-player campaign, which is what I care about most, obviously. They said we weren't showing a lot about that. They only showed half the characters that'll be in the game. Apparently, Maddox is doing the writing for this, which is really cool. Like, all of it. Almost all of it, which is funny.
Dialogue.
Yeah, doing that dialogue, so that's pretty cool. But, yeah, for the positive impression I have of this game is the movement. Just it feels good to be in that 3D space and feeling like you have control over it. It just feels really good. It's one of those exciting prospects of VR to me. I'm way into that.
Nice. So yeah, PSVR, good showing.
Yeah.
There were definitely some things that I mean, you got the PSVR.
I didn't get to
all
try
set up,
GT Sport, which bummed me out. I really want to try that too. What's up, Ben?
I forgot to put a game on the list, but everything Kyle just said made me want to touch on it very quickly because I
All
know a lot of people are excited about this. Ace Combat 7, I got to play in VR.
Oh man,
Yeah.
was that there at the show?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, yeah.
And the way that I experienced it was just sitting in a seat with a normal headset, but at the show, they had like these cockpits that you could get in. and
I
stuff.
effed up.
They had those for
Yeah.
Eve Valkyrie too. But I didn't do it.
I've casually enjoyed the Ace Combat series. It's something that I've kind of played and, you know, been like, oh, that was cool, and moved on. Like a good game between games is kind of how I treat it. Not that they're not great, but playing Ace Combat 7 is exactly like Kyle described, where I got so much more into it. Like, I did the demo 3 times. It was a 6-minute demo, and by the 3rd time, like, they're like, Bogey's coming in on her 6, and I'm like, Roger. And I'm on the side, and I must have looked like such a giant idiot, but you feel so cool, and you don't try to play it like a video game in VR. You try to be like a pilot, and I was trying to like have more elegant turns and just be more conscious of how I was flying in a way that I wouldn't if I was just using a controller. But yeah, like I got so into like the chatter on my headset. But what I want to say about Ace Combat 7, I'm curious if you guys experienced this as well. It did not look good. It looked at least a generation behind within the PSVR headset. I got over that pretty quickly, just because it felt so good flying around that it kind of superseded my initial impression, like, oh, this is a little rough. And I'm disappointed. The big negative thing I want to say is you can't play through the entirety of the game in VR. It's just the way that it was described to me is there's like special VR sections that you can play. So it seems like it may be pretty short in that regard.
I think we're finding, at least with PSVR, the best VR is the ones where they're not going full and like RE7 looks nasty too.
Right.
But Dino Frontier looks great because it's stylistic. And
Yes.
and everything looks perfect. Starblood, again, they have a kind of cartoony aesthetic, and it just works.
The Dino Frontier people said to me, I said, because when the demo starts, it's very, very small, and then later it's a little bigger. And I was asking about that, and they said, well, we need to be 90 frames a second in the headset, and we wanted it to look good, so we limit the scope, and then we can have it look great and run really well.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, when you're making the choices to do that intentionally, it looks really great. But yeah, those bigger games are gonna suffer. For
RE7
sure.
probably.
I played Bound in PSVR, which
how
it's
was
out,
that?
but I haven't played in VR. It's really interesting because the way they did it was, because everyone was saying it's great in VR, and the way they handled it is I hadn't seen anything before. You control your character normally with the left stick, and by flicking the right stick, it seems like you have some input based on the direction you put. You change to a new fixed camera angle.
Whoa.
So it's like basically,
so you don't get sick, basically.
Yeah, it's like basically directing your own fixed camera angle game.
Cool.
As you go. So like I was doing really cool stuff where I'd have like a low angle, and then I would let my character, I would run all the way off screen, and then cut after I was off screen. You know, it was like making the movie of Bound.
You took it off. They're like, "Hey, great playthrough, man."
Yeah. They're like very cinematic. Yeah.
Like
But
crying a little bit.
Yeah, it was a really fun way to do it, especially if you like filmmaking, because it does feel like you're playing a movie. It was
cool.
neat. It was neat.
Absolutely.
Just a cool way to solve that problem. What? What are you laughing about?
You know how in like flight movies when they're like putting the new guy into the plane for the first time and he gets sick and they're like, oh, rookie.
Yeah.
I want to have that with like Ace Combat 7. Like I want to give it to my friend for the first time and they're getting sick. And I'm like, you'll get used to the skies.
Yeah. It happens to all of us the first time.
Yeah, it happens to all of us.
Ben, you
Yes.
mentioned you want to talk about NIS.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of things, and because I have a bunch of things, I'm going to go through them quickly. But NS America invited me over to see a lot of really cool stuff. One super important thing I can't talk about, maybe someday, but
Yeah.
I have a game
Ooh.
specifically for Kyle Bossman.
Oh.
I don't know if I've ever said this, but I'm really excited to talk about it. I
boy.
hadn't heard about it.
Bloodworth over here brings up the
until
notes.
yeah, it's just so much.
Yeah.
And they gave me a lot of details, so I wanted to do this stuff justice. It's called Birthday's Beginning.
I've not heard of this before.
Yeah, so it's made by one of the original dudes, Harvest Moon, and now Story of Seasons.
Okay.
And so what it is you play as this little kind of sprite figure. He's like in this red, almost superhero-like costume, and you start and you just have this gray cube in space, and it's a sim game, and the way that it works is you raise and lower sort of points within this cube. So let's say you have this big cube and then you put a square in it and you just keep going down. As you raise and lower things, that will raise and lower the temperature. So you can raise and lower all of these different points, and as you do that, everything in this world will populate based on the conditions that you've provided. So it's like, okay, you have water here because you raised and lowered it to this point. It's this temperature, so now you're gonna have grass, and because you have grass, you're gonna get like herbivores, dinosaurs in this world, and so you just kind of keep doing that. And the guy said that it's all about discovery, where there's not a lot of stuff in the game. We're going to give you hints, like you put things together in this way and maybe this creature will pop up, but we want you to talk with people and be like, oh, in my world, I created these conditions and therefore, these special types of creatures or these plants popped up. And it's kind of cool because it sounds like a science project on steroids, where you're just sort of fiddling with it. Like, yes, you're building things, but it's not really a Minecraft. It's more of like, I want to see what crazy things I can attract to my, like, what was once nothing but a gray cube and is now an entire small planet. So it seemed really cool. And something I was really impressed with is how easy it was to build things. I mean, in a matter of probably 10 seconds, he had an entire mountain with like a waterfall cascading down it. It was just like, oh, okay.
And that's just from temperature.
So,
and what, you have two parameters?
Basically you raise and lower things. So like there's water sort of beneath the surface.
Okay.
So if you sink a certain part of the ground down, it's like, oh, okay, so there's water here. So I can, like, let's say I lowered it a little bit and I lowered it at the same level in a small square, that'll be like a lake.
Sure.
And at that level, it'll be a certain temperature. But if I dig deeper into this planet, I'm getting closer to the core,
Gotcha.
so the temperature goes up.
Cool.
And it sounds a little confusing, but it's actually very, very, very intuitive once you get into it. And yeah, it just seemed like something that would be really fun to fiddle around with. And you can watch the dinosaurs eat, and it's like, okay, well, there's enough prey for big T-Rexes to come in. And so there's a whole sort of ecosystem with it that seems really cool. So.
Name of it again? Birthday something?
Yeah,
Birthday's
it's a
Beginning,
weird name to remember. So Birthday's Beginnings.
Birthday's Beginnings.
Or it's either Birthday's Beginning or Birthday's Beginnings. But yeah, seems rad. I really liked it. The other one is God Wars.
God Wars!
Yeah,
what a title!
Yeah. So I love the story behind this game almost more than anything else. So the idea for this came from the president of Katakawa Games, and he's had this idea in his head for years and years and years and years, and he's super into Japanese mythology, and he wanted to create a game where all of these different tales from Japanese mythos, you could play through them as a player. And it has a fantastic art style, and the reason it has a fantastic art style is the direction comes from artists that have worked on games like Okami and Devil May Cry. And so it has this really brilliant 2D art style, and it's exploring sort of these Japanese tales. And what's interesting is I feel like the game is just kind of a means for the storytelling. The way they described it to me is kind of just Final Fantasy Tactics. And having seen it, it is just kind of Final Fantasy Tactics. Like, it is not doing anything that you haven't seen in a strategy RPG before, but I think that's okay if what you're playing through is interesting enough. And one little gameplay thing that I wanted to mention is you don't have, like, generic characters. So in Final Fantasy Tactics, you can make, like, just a chemist or whatever, and it can be some sort of no-name figure that you can put in your party, sort of like Disgaea has as well. Everyone in your party in God Wars is a unique character, and they all have a unique class that no one else can get.
Wow.
And you can't change that. It's just there all the time. But two things you can change are main classes and subclasses. And those are a pool that is shared by everybody. And so you can do these really crazy combinations. So that sounds cool. I was very into it. The last thing that I saw from NIS America was Danganronpa 1 and 2 Reloaded. And I've said a lot about Danganronpa, so we don't need to like go into the whole thing here. And I wish Huber was here so he could say I told you so. I played those games on Vita. I've only played Danganronpa 1 and 2 on Vita, and I wish I would have waited to play them on PS4. They look so good. That game just has such a distinct art style, and it just pops. On PS4. I know you can play it on PC as well, but I haven't played the PC version, and yeah, I think people need to experience those games. I think a lot of people... there was actually a comment in our Q&A video, and this comment said it better than I could ever say it. It was like, I decided to play Danganronpa. I thought it was just going to be... these are his words. I thought it was just going to be anime bullshit, and it was going to be really tropey characters and, a very predictable story. And then his tone completely shifts, and he's like, there's so much more depth here. I was engrossed. I couldn't put it down. I finished Danganronpa 1 so quickly, and then I jumped into 2. I have to play it. And yes, that is exactly what those games are. I hope this re-release gives people
when's it happening?
More a chance to play it. So, I've got dates here. Blood Notes. March 14th.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about that birthday game?
Oh, yeah, I got dates for everything.
Birthday's beginning.
Birthday, March 7th.
Okay.
All right.
And then God Wars Spring 2017. For PS4 and Vita, that has dual audio that's going to be free DLC.
And what was the secret game?
Well, I can show you on this page.
Oh, no, I don't want to know the secret game. I don't.
But I can't talk about it. They said they would lose their jobs if I talked about it. So.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
Dangerous stuff going on at PSX.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's NIS America.
The next game, these people will not lose their jobs. In fact, I think they want us to talk about it. Wave the Passive Fist.
Oh, yeah.
Which I just happened to bump into you guys when you were chatting with them, checking it out.
We were checking it out because we were watching it, and then we were like, "Is this it's a 2D side scroller brawler, like Streets of Rage or the like?" And we were watching it, and we were like, "Is the point of this that you can't attack? You like parry and dodge, and that's your offense, like like water, And yes, so it's a game where you're like this, and you have this mechanical arm at your side, and so you have to time your parries and parry enemy attacks, and instead of health, enemies have stamina. And so every time you parry them, they get more and more tired. And then eventually you can just knock them down by putting them to sleep, basically. You just go, wha, and they fall over because they're so tired.
Every enemy is a one-hit kill after you've parried them enough.
After you've parried them enough, after they've
Or you
fallen
can
asleep.
pick them up and throw them to the ground.
Or because when you do your parry enough, this mechanical arm is charging, and then you can unleash one... I think there are like 3 energy canisters, but you can unleash one big, huge punch that basically takes anything out. Or you can do a different attack to like rip a door off a fridge in the background and get a bunch of items and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. The timing takes a little getting used to. It's not like a frame-perfect fighting game style parry or like a Dark Souls parry where the window is pretty small. He was saying that you have like 12 or 14 frames of latitude when you time it. So learning the game's timing is interesting. They've got the playable demo, and they've only been working on it for like 4 months. But the art style looks really cool. They were saying that it's because his favorites were always like the Simpsons Brawler or the Turtles in Time and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Turtles in Time, stuff like that. And so he was like, they're all kind of licensed based on that. So he was saying like, okay, what if there's a sort of pseudo Mad Max 80s cartoon and we're the licensed game of that property? I don't know why I said property like that. But
they pull off that look though.
But and they
Absolutely
totally pull off that
yeah.
look. Like there was a bunch of concept art of characters. One of them's like this old guy with a giant water tank strapped to his back that's like sloshing water around, and he's
It looks like a virtual console game.
It
looks like, is this some like Genesis game that is like their cuts coming out again? It's like, no, it's a new
because
game.
it's a small. They say it runs at, I can't remember exactly, but and then they scale it up to 1080, so it has that super cool retro pixel art kind of vibe to it. And he was saying that because I kind of wanted it to be a little faster, like I was parrying too late because I kept thinking that you had to parry once they were attacking, but it's kind of like right before they attack you have to parry. And he was saying that they might do difficulty modes where you can scale that up, where the amount of time you have is less and stuff like that. Like, it's very, very early in development, but it's really cool. Did you have anything you wanted to say? I kind of talked for a while.
We watched the developer play it, and
yeah,
watching him, like, it was after having that discussion, it's like, can we watch you play it then?
Yeah.
And just watching somebody who's good at the game is really cool. To just
He
do
didn't get
nonstop
touched
parries, picking up daggers that are thrown at him, just throwing them back at the
Yeah.
enemies,
Yeah,
that
just
was
stuff
cool.
like that.
He caught a
We
dagger and
gotta
threw it
get
back.
Brad in there. I think.
Yeah.
We didn't even know that we could do that. It was cool.
We're gonna
Wave
have-
the passive.
We're gonna have to
bit.
hustle.
Okay,
Yeah, we gotta
We're-
go fast.
bonus round.
We'll get bonus round.
lightning round.
Aider.
Okay. Ader's really cool. It is Dark Souls from a 2D isometric perspective. It's got everything that you would expect in a Dark Souls game. You go to bonfires to rest. Even it's kind of that level of Dark Souls. But what I like about it is, unlike Salt and Sanctuary, which I didn't really like, I think the isometric perspective works so much better in a 2D sense because you get a much better idea of where enemies are, and it feels so good. There was a point where I got to dual wield. I had a sword and an axe, and the unique animation that they had for that setup was so good. And the reason why I'm not content to just say, yeah, it's Dark Souls in 2D is because there are two things that separate it. One, you are not creating your own character. You are playing as a character, the Shield Maiden, and you're kind of figuring out her story as you're going along. And so I think it's a little bit more grounded and focused from a storytelling perspective than you would get from other Dark Souls inspired games. So I think that's really cool. The other thing that it has is the second big influence on this game is Diablo. So you will find gear from fallen enemies, but that gear will be of lower quality than crafting your own weapons from materials that you find in the environment from enemies and stuff like that. And you can't that sort of system doesn't really exist in Dark Souls, so I'm curious to see how it goes in Aider. But oh man, it's so good when you pick up a game and you play it for 30 minutes. You're like, yep, this feels right. Sort of the intent.
EITR?
EITR.
So
Worth Googling.
I asked 3 different times what is the pronunciation of this game, and they said think of it as the number 8.
Yeah.
And then tur.
It is the number 8 without the GH.
Yeah.
You can still do it. Aider. A game that I played for a little bit that felt good, that I liked. Fallen Legion. So this is a side-scrolling action RPG where the position of your team, like you have 3 people on your team, and the position of them indicates. So you obviously you want your tank first, you want your healer in the back, and you want your or like ranged. So I had like a big bulky guy up front, and then I had a guy with the staff behind him, and then I had a ranger behind him, and there was like a guy with a crossbow, guy with a pistol, like more spellcasty stuff. And then there's your princess, who you're escorting throughout the entire game. She has 1 HP. If she gets hit, it's over. So you can lose people, it's fine. But you're constantly going to the right. So you keep going and going, you do a fight, beat them up, run, encounter more people, beat them up, run. And the combat is made in a way that when someone uses their ability, they back up. So if your tank's not in front and your guy, like you took your staff guy and he ran out right when those people were loading up a huge attack, that he's going to take all of the damage. And at the bottom are 6 circles, and if you pick who attacks, you'll fill those spaces with their icons, and then you can set up combos depending on like who does how many attacks in what order. And then those can build up special abilities. And then the princess has like a fire attack and a heal and a revive, and those are on cooldowns. Those build up depending on how many combos you do or how well you do.
What's it look like?
It looks like what was the Dragon's Crown for the Vita? What was that?
Yeah.
That was like extreme, like that was like the lady's
kinda.
chest was like like out to
Yeah.
here, and
Pretty
it's not like that, but
Her chest isn't that ridiculous.
right. It's not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it pretty
it's
much
ridiculous,
was.
but not that
Pretty much
ridiculous.
was that ridiculous.
I was offended but turned on. But it has that.
Get it on the box. Yeah.
Kind of into it.
But yeah, it had that kind of a style. Again, I'm not as well versed in the Japanese role playing games to actually like pick a very specific game that it reminded me of. But it definitely felt a little more old school than your modern type game. Like definitely more of a hand drawn art style. But what I really like the pace of it. And one thing that's really fascinating is if you once you go from town to town, every now and then they'll pop up 3 options of something you can get, either like a buff, or a lot of times if you are down a party member, you can revive them, but at a cost. So it's like, hey, you're about to go into a town. They're going to be attacked. Do you want to save them or bring your tank back? And you're like, I want my tank. And they're like, okay, well, like, hopefully you didn't need that town. And then like later on in the game, they might come up and be like, oh, you have to fight this boss now because remember that town? If you'd helped them, they would have stopped that boss, and now you got to deal with that. So it's kind of fun just to be like, screw you. Like, just it was just the demo at PSX, so I'm like, screw you,
you don't
town.
have to worry about the consequences. Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be interesting long term to see how that affects you. But I just like I'm fascinated by the concept of like RPGs that are just you're just going and going and going and going constantly, just like fight after fight after fight. So yeah, I'm curious to see if that has staying power. We have one more game, and then we're gonna steam through honorable mentions, and I'm speed through and steam through. I'm nervous. The Crash Bandicoot is not something we can talk about quickly. Can we?
We can
I
do it
think
quickly.
we can totally talk about it quickly.
Looks
Okay.
good, plays like garbage.
Oh, plays like garbage.
No way.
Uh-oh.
No way.
It-
That was
It's
my
on.
guess. Sorry, no, that was my guess. I haven't played
Oh,
it.
sure,
that was
sure.
my guess.
No.
Sorry.
It plays like Crash Bandicoot.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Crash Bandicoot 1 is a difficult video game.
Right.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. In kind of a refreshing way. Like, playing that demo, every time I jumped, I was like, oh, am I going to make it? And that is not something I get with a lot of platformers, or even a lot of retro platformers. And it looks so much better than it did on stream.
Yeah.
I was
It
sold
does look
on the
better
look
in real life.
playing it. Yeah. And something weird, like how it shames the player, I had forgotten about when you get to the end of the level. It's like, great, but you missed, and then it will... Every box that you didn't break, that box will land on Crash Bandicoot's head, assaulting him.
Yeah.
And if you reach a certain threshold, Crash is in so much pain that he will get on the ground, and the boxes will keep coming, and you feel real bad.
I did stubbornly beat it with all the boxes. You just get a gem. You get a crystal.
Yeah, that's right. What do those gems do again? I don't remember at all.
I think you unlock like the real final fight.
Okay.
I also don't remember.
So it's Crash. They did
Crash.
like
It's Crash.
we are living in a surprising era of remasters done well.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a remaster than a remake. It's not the Ratchet and Clank treatment.
But like, remember Silent Hill 2? Like, remember how sad that was? Like,
Yeah.
remember like it just it's neat.
bummer.
It's
We
neat
don't-
that these
yeah, we
games
don't.
that can be
bummer.
upscaled so well.
Konami
so,
tears.
Oh, to kick lightning round off, I just thought of one really fast.
Oop.
Ukulele, we saw it in real life. It looks
Yeah.
really good.
Huge wait. It was like a 15-minute
Yeah,
demo,
it
so
looks
like that line was not
visually-
forgiving. But
that game I'm into that game now.
Very
Yeah.
pumped
It
for
looks
ukulele.
really cool.
same font, same sound effects. If you close your eyes, it's Banjo-Kazooie. Right?
That's awesome.
But that's a good
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. Snake Pass.
Snake Pass is really cool. You play as a little snake. You can't move forward. You have to go left, right, left, right, left, right, like a
Sumo
snake.
Digital.
It looks cool.
Oh, nice. Disney Infinity.
A platformer where you can't jump.
Lego World's coming to PS4. Yeah, finally. That's finally coming out early access. Night in the Woods is adorable. You're a little cat and
Very good writing.
running around. Very good writing.
The art style.
Really, really nice team.
Really
Talk to them. I
beautiful
think
art.
it's
Yeah.
coming out in like February or March. It's coming out soon.
Something like that.
Very cool looking.
And I just want to say, because we're talking about remasters, again, another game that's been remastered by a team that's done this kind of thing before. This is actually the end of their catalog, but Full Throttle looks awesome. Like, I don't know if you guys
Oh,
played
I
Full
didn't
Throttle
see that
back in the
happen.
day,
I didn't
see it
but like
there.
all those, both of the Monkey Islands that they remastered, and like Grim Fandango was done so well, but
Grim Fandango's
specifically
incredible.
this like heavily pixelated environments that LucasArts used to do, tapping back and forth. Like, it was one of the last games I played at PSX, and I just like, oh, it's so good just to like see each and every one of these environments, all these like cutscenes of him like racing down and running guys over, and tires going. And back when it was pixelated, it's like, I think that's a tire.
Yeah, I
I
was
can't
like,
tell.
what is that?
And you like just hit a button and it goes back and forth. And just every frame.
Can I do one
so
more
well
lightning
done.
round?
Lots of love. Yeah.
Psychonauts,
that's okay.
Rhombus Ruin. I thought it would be like a cheap little VR game. It's not. It's actually a really good VR implementation. The way you hop around to other people's minds is a really good solve for movement in 3D. And also, you have powers that you would want in a VR game. It totally makes sense in the Psychonauts universe, like levitating things and tossing them around.
I think that was our timer, Ben.
What were you gonna
I
say?
think we're out of time.
Ben?
What do you got?
Wonder Boy remake is fantastic.
them.
Which one?
So there's Monster Boy and then there's
Monster Boy.
Wonder Boy.
Yeah.
Wonder Boy.
Monster Boy looks great. I'm gonna check that out a little later. I played the Wonder Boy
Also played
because
it.
Monster Boy is making a new game in the vein of
Right.
those Wonder Boy Monster World. It gets confusing, but I played the Wonder Boy, which is a remake.
Literal remake. Looks
and-
beautiful.
Boy, so as someone who didn't grow up with those games, it feels like the progenitor of that Metroidvania style, and it looks fantastic. You have this wonderful hand-drawn style, and I don't know if you guys played Kirby Dream Land 2. One of my favorite things about that game is you have all these different animals, and they all have different powers. Here you transform into different animals, so you can play as a lizard that breathes fire. You have all of these different sub-weapons like Castlevania, and you can use them in cool ways to get to secret areas. I think that game is going to be delightful, and you should all play it.
I'm cutting this off.
Yeah, PSX.
Sonic Mania, Dreadnought, Star Wars VR Battlefront, like PSX rules, man.
Try to go as
PSX.
fast as possible.
I'm super excited. I hope it's in Southern California next year so we can all go again and save ourselves some money. But there's no way to go through all the games that are there, so apologies if we missed something that you wanted to check out. Feel free to reach out to all of us or ask questions on Love and Respect or Q&A or something
we have
if you
to
want to know
officially state who's
specifically something. Oh, yes, and thank you very much to PlayStation for providing our access to...
We don't have to say thank you. That's not mandatory.
We don't have to. We just
I'm
have
going
to
to say
okay,
thank you.
okay,
They gave
great.
four
Because
of us
this is our
tickets.
first PSX as Easy Allies, and we were kind enough to get into PSX. Thank you to Sony and to PlayStation. And to you for watching. See you soon.